Welcome back into this off-season edition of Ravens Unscripted. We've got Garrett, Cliff, and Ryan. And guys, this offense is going to look very different in 2019. With some 4 downs here, let's break down how different it may be. First down, Garrett. Greg Roman now takes over. He's the man making the decisions about this offense. What changes do you expect to see?
Well, when you make the transition to Greg Roman, it's clear that you're going all in on the offense that we saw the second half of the season once Lamar Jackson took over as the starting quarterback. And I think the biggest change that we're going to notice is that when the Ravens made that switch last year from Joe to Lamar and they changed the offense along the way, they did it on the fly. They didn't have much time. They had to go from running one offense that was very pass-heavy to a run-dominated offense in a matter of a few days. And so there wasn't too much complexity to that because of the nature of having to make that switch midseason. Now, I think it's going to be a much more bulked up version of what they were doing last year. There's going to be more complexity both in the run and the pass game. Also, Lamar Jackson obviously is going to be more developed. You know, he was just trying to kind of figure things out and learn his way his rookie season, so his development is going to be a big piece of that. So it's clear that they're going all in on Lamar, all in on the offense that we saw the second half of the year, and I think it's just going to be much, bigger and better version.
I would agree with that. I don't think fundamentally too much changes, even though they've said they're going to build it from the ground up. I mean, Greg Roman ran a very similar RPO system in San Francisco, ran a very similar system in Buffalo. He's still going to do what he does best, and that's designing a really good run game that's very creative, and I expect to see more of that going forward.
Cliff, let's get in the minutia here on second down with the ratio of run to pass. I think we, for good reason, really focused in on that. I mean, how do you view this, to Garrett and Ryan's point, where they're going to have an offseason to build it, but is it going to still be these crazy numbers in terms of rush attempts?
I still think there'll be a heavily run-based offense, one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest, in the NFL. I do think they want to get to a point, though, where they have more diversity in the passing game and certainly create more big plays. But it's a great formula to have, particularly when you have the lead. If you can control the football and wear the other defense down and keep your defense fresh, why would you want to get away with that or from that when they won 6 out of 7 games down the stretch to make the playoff? But, yeah, I think you'll see some things expand, but the meat and potatoes of the Ravens will still be on offense running the football.
Well, and obviously, even if you ran the ball with your running backs, the average number that most teams around the NFL do, and then put on top of it a quarterback that runs the ball more than any quarterback in NFL history, you're going to run the ball a lot. And I don't think that the Ravens are scared to let Lamar Jackson run. They know, and they drafted him because he is electric with his legs. And they know a quarterback can get injured at any time. Joe Flacco got injured, and he's a pocket passer when a guy landed on his hip and he landed wrong. Lamar Jackson can get injured too. The Ravens aren't going to be scared to let him run. So I agree. I think they still will run the ball a lot while developing a more efficient passing game.
I think the other component of this is not just the construction of the offense, but it's the play calling on game day. And we're moving from Marty Morningweg to Greg Roman. I think that they're going to be more, I think that they may even run the ball a little bit more, be more reliant on the run even than they were at times last year. And I think that Greg Roman is certainly going to be somebody that sticks to the run game. I think that that's the identity. When you make this transition and you say we're making Greg Roman our offensive coordinator, you know that his specialty, his expertise is building these great run games. And that includes not just the construction of it, like I said, but also what you do on game days in terms of calling those plays.
And Greg Roman's not the only coaching shift we have here in 2019. The man with the longest business card, I think, David Culley. He's the assistant head coach, receivers, and passing game coordinator. Thoughts on the new role, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, Andy Reid obviously is off of that tree, worked with him in Philadelphia along with John Harbaugh, and worked with him in Kansas City. So this is a guy that really knows good offenses. And he was on the aspiring potential head coach. He was working his way up the coaching ladder, and he was always kind of Andy's guy. He was his right-hand man. So I think taking a nice limb from that tree is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I think with Greg Roman, obviously everyone would say, okay, the run game is his specialty. If there's a question mark, the second guessing would have about putting Greg Roman in charge is can he make the passing game go? And I think Culley was brought in specifically to help Greg do that. And one thing we haven't talked about too with all this offense is the Ravens' red zone efficiency. I think a lot of people thought with Lamar and how dynamic he is that the Ravens would be really good in the red zone. Well, they really weren't late in the season. They were better when Joe was a starting quarterback in the red zone than they were with Lamar.
Yeah.
That has to change. So I think both of them with Culley and Roman, and of course John Harbaugh, the entire staff, they will really be looking hard at how do we make sure that when we get inside the red zone, we're getting touchdowns, not field goals.
I think the biggest thing is it's just like building a team. You want pieces that complement each other. Greg Roman, great with the run game. Coley has been somebody who's worked with the passing game his entire career. I think you put the two of them together. I think it's a good marriage.
Makes a lot of sense. 4th down here, and we touched on this in the soapbox segment with Cliff bringing up names like Julian Edelman, the type of receiver that's going to fit. There seems to be a bit of contention here with what Mink thinks, what Garrett and I think. Garrett, you first here. Describe the perfect receiver in your mind for this new look offense.
Well, I do think it's somebody that's going to be willing and good at blocking. And that's not something you should overlook. You need to have a wide receiver that's willing to block because not every receiver is willing to block. So I think that's a big piece of it. I do think it's somebody that has a big catch radius. I do think I think that there's a combination. You want somebody that can be on the outside and go make those tough catches, big, strong, all that. But I also think,
like Cliff's talking about.
Exactly, the red zone. But I also think that there's a
Those are what
benefit to
tight ends
having.
are there for.
You want a guy that can run around and do this jet sweep stuff because the Ravens have done some of that. They did it with Chris Moore last year. So if you can get a really dynamic player that can run around in the backfield, be part of the running game, be part of the short passing game. So all of those things.
All right, I'm going to give you a nod because you like Tyreek Hill so much and that kind of player.
I do.
And he's an excellent player. And I agree. You need complementary pieces. I mean, last year, Willie Snead complemented Crabtree and John Brown. John Brown was a speed guy. Crabtree was supposed to be the contested catches guy, and Willie Snead worked the underneath. So you still need to build a complementary wide receiver core. And I don't hate a fast, smaller, bulked up kind of dude to do a lot of that underneath kind of dirty work. But I think you still do need a big wide receiver who can pluck a lot of balls. This guy's got, whoever it is, they need to be able to catch the ball. I can say that because Lamar Jackson, like I said, he's going to improve with his accuracy. He's going to improve as a passer, but I don't think he's ever going to be a pinpoint kind of guy. Whoever it is, they're going to need to make a lot of variety, wide range of catches.
Yeah, and drops kill you all the time, but particularly if you don't throw the ball a lot, you can't waste opportunities.
It has to be efficient.
Right. So I think that last year the Ravens had too many drops.
Yep.
That's something that needs to change regardless of the size and shape and speed of whatever wide receiver they bring in.
And I think another good point that you brought too is if you're not passing it all that much, you also need big plays from your passing game, right? So you're not going to be just march down the field, hitting passes on 3rd down, hitting 3rd and 5. So you need to have some chunk plays. The question is, what's the best package to do that? Because you would have thought that John Brown is a big play kind of guy, this smaller speedster kind of guy, but it didn't really work out. So it's really complex because at the same time, while you want to invest in the run game, you have to put enough investments in the wide receivers if you expect Lamar Jackson to improve as a quarterback. So it's all very tricky.
We cleared it up for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I know a lot more. I had fun doing it, though. Enjoyed it, guys. We will be back to continue to break down this offseason after the Combine, so make sure to head to BaltimoreRavens.com for all your coverage in what is a fascinating offseason for this organization.